Yeah, today we are talking about sleep. So, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I have had major sleep issues for most of my life, including having like a major surgery on my throat in my 20s while I was playing college football for sleep apnea and what they called severe sleep fragmentation. Basically, I wasn't sleeping. I did a sleep study because my dad and my brother thought I was dying when we were on a trip in Alaska, staying on a tugboat together for 10 days, and I would just stop breathing. I got the sleep study done, and they came up with this diagnosis, and I tried a CPAP machine and some other things that didn't really work, so I ended up having surgery. Would not do that again because it did not help me with any of my sleep hygiene or the stuff that we're going to talk about today. But what was really wild to me after that sleep study is they woke me up halfway through the night and they're like, you need to put this machine on because you are not breathing. And she told me the next morning that I was stopping breathing about 40 to 70 times an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so numerous times every minute I would stop breathing. My brain would wake me up and activate the muscles of my tongue and throat so that I could open the airway, and then I would fall back asleep. And then I would wake up, fall back asleep. Not real efficient sleep. And yet I was playing college football at a high level and like also not sleeping because I was studying in school and doing all the partying and all the fun things that we like to do as well. It was a disaster. And it left me with a lot of issues beyond that. Okay, so that's my personal little diatribe there. But all that's to say is this is a really near and dear subject to me, and I know the importance of it. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just hammering why sleep matters so much. Because it is the number one performance enhancing tool or detractor or flow blocker. It's number one on both ends. It's the most important big rock we got to take care of. So we'll look at how to get the most out of it by hitting the big rocks of sleep, and then some of the smaller long tail methods you can do, and what to do if those things aren't working. All right, so here's some of the things that we hear in our day-to-day life around sleep in our culture. And in that hustle and grind kind of culture, you probably heard a bunch of these things said before, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Time spent sleeping is time wasted. If you're sleeping, somebody else is awake, like taking your spot. Dreams don't work unless you do. Stay awake, stay ahead, all this stuff. I mean, it's pervasive in our culture. And it's just really the exact opposite of what's true. Because what's true is that sleep is the most performance enhancing thing you can do. And the person that sleeps 8 hours and wakes up refreshed is going to find more flow, more productivity, more creativity than somebody that stayed up 2 extra hours every time across the board. So it's not time wasted. It is time very well spent. Okay. So ChatGPT would not give me a picture of a real person that looks sleep deprived. They said it goes against their content guidelines. So yeah, I had a real hard time with ChatGPT trying to make these slides. It would not give me any of the images I wanted. It's getting a little bit crazy. They're censoring and stuff that they're doing. But anyway, that's a side issue. Here's a few things I've listed here. But real quick, I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. I'm just going to list a bunch of the crap that happens when you are sleep deprived. Number one, we're just slowly killing yourself. You're giving yourself Alzheimer's. It affects every system of your body, including heightening your risk for heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, digestion issues. It weakens your immune system. It has a negative impact on your HRV, which is a measure of your stress response. It decreases your balance and coordination. It lowers cognitive processing. It seriously impairs your memory, both long-term and short-term. It impairs your affective emotional regulation, your decision-making skills, your attention processes, and your ability to focus. Decreases your social interaction skills. You have less control over unwanted thoughts and less ability to inhibit unwanted behaviors. It reduces your ability to unlearn fear-based memories. leading to increased anxiety, depression, and PTSD. You're 200% more likely to have a heart attack when you're sleep deprived. You're two times more likely to get cancer. It reduces your lifespan. It can make you pre-diabetic just on one night of lack of sleep. It severely lowers your emotional control, increases procrastination. It smatters men's testicular size and reduces testosterone production. It makes you less attractive physically, decreases your ability to learn. You're less creative. You're less able to read facial expressions, read the room. It compounds the damage to your brain, leading to higher instances of amyloid plaque buildup and protein misfolding, which can lead to Alzheimer's and dementia. You are 50% higher risk of obesity. 1 in 25 adults have fallen asleep at the wheel in the last month. 33% increase in risk in dementia when you're sleep deprived. Greater risk of depression, anxiety, and irritability. And it will reduce your lifespan just from mild sleep deprivation by 3 to 5 years. Okay? Rant over. Sleep deprivation is akin to performing under the influence of 5 beers. Even just 2 to 3 hours of sleep deprivation is equal to the BAC level of 0.08%, which is the legal limit in most states, right? So you have an equal risk of crashing your car as if you drank 5 beers as if you were sleep deprived for just a couple hours. So extrapolate that out to everything else that you do. Like, how's your balance and coordination? How's your movement ability? How is your inhibition ability to make good decisions, right? All of this stuff is hampered. Sachin Panda, which is a circadian biologist at the Salk Institute, I believe. I may be wrong there, but he wrote the book, The Circadian Code, which is a really cool book. And all of his research is around the circadian rhythms. And he says that sleep is not a passive experience. The human body begins to get ready for the day the night before. Now, all of this stuff, we kind of know this already, right? So where this gets really interesting from like a neurological perspective is when we look at what is actually the function of sleep. Why do we sleep? Like, in an evolutionary standpoint, why would human beings just go totally unconscious for 8 hours at a time when there's predators out there like roaming the woods, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense until you learn like what is actually happening and how powerful this state is from an active standpoint, right? So the main functions of sleep are learning and memory formation. So we know we get a huge boost in learning, skill acquisition, and creativity from flow states, right? That's like our optimal state where we're just like cruising and our learning is enhanced by like 400%. Our creativity can be enhanced like 500% and can last for days. That's great, but none of that matters. And in fact, most of it is lost if we don't sleep after that flow state. Because during the sleep is when the actual laying down of the neural pathways happens, where that learning that happened in the flow state and that awesome memories that we've created there are formulated into long-term holding. Okay, so learning and memory, crucial function of sleep. Creativity boost during sleep is akin to that of a flow state. It's like that release phase that we were talking about earlier with Julie. You're out of your mind, your thinking brain is completely shut off, you are completely unconscious, but your brain is hard at work taking all of that information that you accumulated during the day and making these remote associations all throughout your brain with every other experience you've ever had. This is why your dreams can be quite wild and make no sense at times, because your brain is hard at work making these weird connections that you may never think of logically in your awakened state. But the most important thing that we are concerned with from a neuro perspective is what's called brain flushing or cleaning house. This is what your glymphatic system is meant for. If you're not familiar with the glymphatic system, It's much like the lymphatic system of everything below the neck. If you're not familiar with that, this is kind of your detoxing system. It clears out all the bad and dead cells, the waste, and all those damaged cells. The glymphatic system is that for your brain, and it's named glymphatic because the type of cells that are doing this are called glial cells that live in your brain. And they live around, they surround all of the arteries and veins, the blood vessels in your brain. There's like a little casing around it with the lymphatic tissue or fluid in there. Okay, these and the main function of this system is to clear out waste that builds up, including metabolites and waste products, but also misfolded proteins, which are the main cause, or at least they think is the main cause for diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's, are these buildup of these misfolded proteins, kind of clog things up. Your glymphatic system is responsible for clearing that stuff out. But it also has another function, which is delivering fat-soluble vitamins. And our brain is mainly made up of fat. We need these vitamins to get in there. Now, the almost exclusive time when the glymphatic system is working to do all this is when we sleep. So, if we want to improve the function of our glymphatic system, we need to sleep. Duh, right? Oh, that's so easy. Just sleep more. Well, not really. You can't just sleep more. You gotta sleep better. We need better quality sleep, not necessarily just more. A lot of us do need more, but even then, we have to improve the quality and the efficiency of this system in order to get the most out of it. Okay, so the other main way that we can do this is to increase the blood flow and blood pressure, plus the activation of the whole brain. Okay, and this graphic you'll see right here, this is your brain, right? These are the areas of the brain, and these arrows are representation of the way that blood flow and activation work in the brain. You're always going to get blood flow and activation to the bottom back part of the brain first, okay? This is where your brain stem sits, your cerebellum. These are your automatic functions, including heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, yada, yada. Cerebellum is where our accuracy, balance, and coordination of movement and emotional regulation happens. The temporal lobe is where we have our vestibular processing, long-term memory hold, smell processing happens here. Occipital lobe is our visual cortex, where visual processing happens. Parietal lobe is sensory processing of the body, and integration happens all over the back part of this brain. The important thing here, and why I'm saying all this, is because this is where all of your sensory information and integration happens, which is going to be important when we get to the neuro drills that we can use to help drive more blood flow and activation to the whole brain, including this frontal lobe, which is where our thinking brain, where our executive function happens. Okay, so we need to get it to the back bottom part first, push it up and push it forward in order for this glymphatic system to do its job at its highest possible efficiency. Okay, so we got to get that glymphatic system working really well. That's point number one. We need to remember. Right here are your basic three components for quality sleep. It means you have a fixed wake and sleep timing, fluctuating no more than 30 minutes. Most importantly on the wake up time, but also the sleep time. You want to work backwards from there to get your 8 hours. And it says there, avoid social jet lag. Your physiology doesn't really know the difference between, like, did I just ride on a plane for 4 hours and now I'm in a different time zone and I lost that sleep? Or did I just stay up on a Friday night until 1 a.m. watching TV and I lost that 4 hours of sleep? It's the same. You're still going to get that, like, jet lag, right? In this case, we just call it social jet lag. So you want to avoid that as much as possible by fixing your wake and sleep time. Okay, now that kind of gets us down here to the total hours. 8 is just like the magic number. Yes, that can fluctuate depending on the person, but it's not much. It really, there's so much research around this now that you really can't move it much. Most people that say that they can function really well on 6 hours are kidding themselves, to be perfectly frank. Some of them can, but most of them are sacrificing performance in some way or compensating somehow. And they've just gotten used to it, really. But they could perform better if they could get that 8 total hours. And your sleep composition, what we're looking for is 1 to 2 hours of non-REM deep sleep. This is where a lot of our body is repairing itself. And then the 2+ hours of REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. This is where we're paralyzed, but we're doing most of our dreaming, and a lot of emotional processing happens here too. So that's the big 3 components that we're looking for. Now, these are the big rocks that we're going to talk about first, before we get to like the little long tail methods later. The big rocks are the big things you have to take care of before anything else, because they're going to make the biggest difference. And that is timing, tracking. Well, we'll just jump in because I got a slide for each of them. This is what I'm talking about. You guys are going to be blown away visually. So timing first. We need 9 hours in bed to get 8 hours of sleep. It's just best to have that container, right? Like you might lay in bed, give yourself 9 hours. You might read for a little bit. You might lay there for a few minutes before you fall asleep. Okay. So if you can, and then the other end of that is remember to have that fixed wake up time and work yourself backwards from there. If you're going to wake up at 6 a.m. to get to work, then you need to wake up at 6 a.m. every day. You can fluctuate by 30, some say 45 minutes, maybe on the weekends, but it's best if you can maintain that schedule. Your brain craves predictability. So you're doing yourself a favor if you can do that, okay? Next is tracking, because what gets measured gets managed. I think that's backwards. No, that's right. That's right. That's right. Right, so wearing some kind of a sleep tracker, there's so many fitness wearables and sleep trackers out there that you're really just looking at one that you can see trends and that you will wear, right? I know the Aura Ring is really popular. The Whoop band is a little more cost-effective version that you can wear all the time. Sometimes the watches, like this one here, kind of looks like a Fitbit or like an Apple Watch or the Garmin's. Sometimes those can be not as beneficial because they have the light shining from the watch face. I'm sure you can probably turn that off now. I don't know. I don't own one of those watches, but you want to be aware of that light is really harmful for your sleep. But whatever wearable you wear, it's important to track that data, and whatever it's tracking, but via HRV, heart rate, pulse oximetry, or diffusion index, whatever they do to give you a score, that's great. Wear it for a week, maybe 2, before you start really changing things too much, so you can see the patterns develop. Because whatever wearable you're using, you're looking for patterns over time. And then you can start experimenting with these different things to see what changes, okay? But the point here is that tracking is really important in whatever way that you do it. Next is cold. The room needs to be cold. One of the main reasons that people wake up during the night is because they heat up. Ideally, you're at 18 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about like the ideal temperature for the human body to be able to cool down, stay cool, and stay asleep. I know when it's in the summer, it's 120 degrees out here in Arizona. Like 70 degrees feels like I'm laying in snow like this dog. Like it feels really cold, and I often can sleep really well at 70 degrees. My partner is like, it's way too cold, right? But she just wears an extra blanket and she's fine. But you want to keep it cold. It's better to be colder and have a little more warmth on you, right? With a blanket or something, than it is to be hot. Running hot is going to be horrible for your sleep. And it's such an easy thing to manage. Okay, next is dark. It needs to be dark. So dark that no light is entering from anywhere. Like blackout curtains, blinds are great. A mask, even better. Well, both of them is better. Mask is an okay alternative. They've shown that even the tiniest little LED light from like a television or an alarm clock in your room will disrupt your sleep. So get the phone out of the room, get the TV out of the room, or cover the little LED thing with some tape. Get all of the light out of your environment, or wear a mask like this one. It's a really great alternative. Next big rock is food. 2 hours minimum before you go to sleep. You should not be eating a big meal within 2 hours. You also want to have a little bit more carbs in the evening. Okay? Your body and your brain is a very active machine as you're sleeping. It's gonna be burning a lot of energy to repair that whole lymphatic system, for it to do its work. It needs glucose. So eating a meal that is like very low on the carbohydrates can cause you to run out of fuel at night. Again, if you're waking up at night, oftentimes that can be because your brain has just run out of fuel. It's not able to do its job properly. So, especially with people that have had head injuries and are dealing with that recovery process, I will have them have a glass of orange juice next to their bed. Number one, I don't want them to go open the fridge and that light just blast them in the face. But I'd rather they just don't even get out of bed. They wake up, they take some orange juice, right, which is a really good delivery method of glucose, because it's also got almost an equal amount of fructose, so it doesn't spike your blood sugar. It just gives you that good amount of sugar to the brain for some fuel and some electrolytes with some potassium. They oftentimes will go right back to sleep really quickly. Okay, but the point here is that you don't want that big amount of food sitting in your gut that your digestion's got to go all night, but you need to have enough fuel for your brain to do everything it needs to do during the night. All right, next up, power down. Unwind. Shut down the brain by lowering cognitive load. Brain dump at night, right? And we've talked about clear goals, right? Setting clear goals the night before for the next day. I think we talked about it in the goal setting or the, no? Okay, we need to get into that. I'm checking my schedule every night. Well, I do it basically at the end of the workday. I'll spend 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just writing down what I need to do. What's my main goal for the next day? What do I need to get done? And what are the steps to get there? It's going to allow me to get into flow easier. It's a flow trigger to know exactly what I need to do and the steps to do it. Okay, that's lowering cognitive load and allowing me to jump right in and focus. That's kind of at the end of the workday, right? For clear goals for the next day. In this sense, like if you still got something going on in your mind and it's taking up working memory space, you're thinking about it, get it out of your head and get it onto paper. You don't even have to look at it again. We just need to dump what's in your brain out onto paper or onto your phone, whatever. lower cognitive load, okay, and then unplug. You should not be looking at screens of any kind for an hour before you go to bed. And we also want to, this will be helpful for increasing the efficiency of your lymphatic system in your brain. Cleaning at night is to decrease EMFs or electromagnetic frequencies as much as possible leading up to bed, and definitely get them out of your room if you can. Like if you have a wireless router in your room, get it out of there or unplug it. I mean, ideally you just unplug your Wi-Fi router at night anyway. Just take all the EMFs out. That's great. But definitely get your phone out of your room, get it into the next room. And anything else that's giving off like EMFs in the room, try to get them out of your space. You can also, there are ways you can go on YouTube and look up how to do this, to actually take some copper wire, run it outside through a window, and ground your bed or mattress to the earth. And that can be really helpful for offsetting any EMFs that might be in there. But ideally, you get the EMFs out and you ground your mattress to the earth. Just help to, deionize, or I can't remember what the term is, but whatever grounding helps with. That's one way to do it. Okay. All right. Next up, fluids.
Ions.
Ions. Yeah. Didn't I say that? Deionize? That's
Yeah.
different, but thank you. All right. Next up is fluids. Cut back on fluids before sleep, but not at the sake of staying hydrated, right? And so one thing that can be helpful is like having the orange juice before you sleep. You're not drinking a whole gallon of it, but just a little bit because it's got a lot of electrolytes, or maybe even throwing some like gray salt in some water for some electrolytes. So you have a good electrolyte balance when you go to sleep. But we want to stop drinking like massive amounts of water like an hour to 90 minutes before you go to sleep, just so you're not waking up at night like having to pee and all that. Next is noise. Keep it quiet. Wear some earplugs, or try something like white noise, which if you don't know what white noise is, it's like every frequency of the spectrum that we can hear with our ears. Okay, it's all of them. Whereas I think pink noise or brown noise are just certain spectrums, certain frequencies of sound. But any of those to manage the noise in your environment, also really helpful. Exercise. We want intense exercise, but not within 3 hours before bedtime. You can do some lighter intensity movement and stuff up to 90 minutes before bed. But the last thing we want is to spike up your sympathetic system and then try to go to sleep. All right, that's not going to be helpful. But some light intensity exercise can help you rebound and kick in that parasympathetic system and help you go to bed. But exercise in general is going to help us sleep tremendously, right? So, lastly, for the big rocks are substances. Cut the caffeine and alcohol and nicotine 10 hours before bedtime. Ideally 12, okay? So I'm not exactly like advocating for lunch beers here, but lunch beers are better than dinner beers when it comes to your sleep quality, because you're going to be able to metabolize that out, right? And it won't disrupt your sleep. Okay. All right. Now, those are the big rocks. The last, we could call this a big rock because of what it's doing to help your lymphatic system do its job and to help with your just ability to fall asleep, stay asleep, and your sleep quality. And there's specific neuro drills to improve blood flow and activation before you go to sleep. So we're going to try a couple of these. Okay. So let's just set a quick assessment. Use my shoulder. And the first one is lymphatic activation. Okay. So we're going to essentially massage, or we're gonna use a percussive like thumping on what's called the subclavian duct of your lymphatic system. And we're just gonna do it on the left side because that's the biggest duct that for your body, basically below the neck. So if you find your SC joint, which is where the sternum and clavicle come together, and then you basically go 3 fingers out, right below that is right around where your subclavian lymphatic duct sits. So all we're gonna do is just thump lightly on that duct, and you should be able to hear the change in your voice when you do it. Like if you're going too light, like this, and I don't hear any change in my chest voice, it's not hard enough. Need a little bit more. Okay. That's just kind of getting some things moving around in there, waking that up. That's a nice little improvement for me. Feels good. Now we got that lymphatic duct kind of opened up a little bit and awake. Next thing we're gonna do is a vision drill called eye circles. Okay. And a lot of these are sensory drills for the back of the brain. That's where our sensory processing is happening. And we're doing, you'll notice one from each area: visual cortex, temporal lobe with vestibular drills, parietal lobe for movement drills, and then integration for all areas, including the cerebellum. Okay, so do we remember the fuel and activation? Why we're doing it that way? That's why. So vision drills, real simple, eye circle. Okay, you can use your thumb, finger, a pen, or an object, doesn't matter. We're just gonna do a circle without moving your head. And it's about as wide as your shoulders, up and around. I'm gonna go 2 times in each direction, nice and easy, and then retest. Just mark down which one of these are good. Okay. So you got some drills to go to your list. Vestibular drills. For this, we're going to do we call it the balance progression, but it's just 6 head rotations while you're balancing. So we're going to start with your feet together, okay? And you want to do it eyes open first. Quick head rotations out to the side, and then slowly come back to neutral. Quick to the left, slowly come back. And then I'm going to go quick lateral tilt, ear to shoulder. If you have neck stiffness or tightness here, you can shorten the range of motion. Okay, you don't have to go all the way ear to shoulder if you got some stiffness or pain. And then we're going to look up, slowly come back, and then look down. Slowly come back up. Go ahead and retest that one. If that one gives you a positive result, great, you can stay right there. If you want to increase the challenge, close your eyes. Do the same 6 head rotations. If that gives you a good result, great. If you want to increase the challenge even more, stand on one foot. I'm standing on my right foot, eyes are open. Do those 6 head rotations. You can certainly have something next to you to help you balance in case it gets a little wobbly. You're finding one of those levels that gives you the best result, that's where you want to keep it and train it. That will be your drill. Okay, next up are movement drills. These are complex non-linear movement drills. So we're going to make circles or figure eights of any of the major joints in the body. So we'll just start with some shoulder figure eights here. Both directions, I'm just doing 2 or 3. Then go into the other side. The idea here is we're just getting some joints moving to activate the area of the brain in the back, in this case called the parietal lobe, where it processes this stuff. Okay, so I'm not super concerned about how precise you do it or perfect, or even which joints you do. I want you to just do a few of them. I want you to just give more information to your brain. Right now I'm doing hip figure eights. Okay, now I'm gonna do hand figure eights. Going both directions. Just giving my brain lots of information. You can do ankle circles. I know this is my hand, but that's what my ankle is doing. So lots of information, still feeling good. The other thing we're doing here is we're giving the lymphatic system some movement and some blood flow to get it pumping, because it does not have a pump like our circulatory system does with the heart. So getting some lymph moving, this is going to help the lymphatic system also, because it drains into that lymphatic system. And then lastly, an integration drill to tie the whole brain together, compass lunges. Just imagine you're standing on a compass rose. I got north, east, south, west, and the in-betweens. Okay, pick a spot with your eyes to look at. Now I'm getting visual, vestibular with the movement, and then body movement as well. And I'm hitting every area of the compass for every direction. Switching legs, going back here, to the west, northwest, and north. Again, they're nice and easy, smooth movements, just bringing all those systems to integrate together. So, again, give yourself a retest. I'm feeling great after all that. And that's something that we want to do not just before you go to bed, although it's great to get prepared for sleep. Lots of blood flow and activation. But also, like, many times throughout the day, just like your other drills. These can be in your high payoff drills, in your neurohygiene. The way that we just set that up, let me bring it back here. The way that we just set that up is a great way to set up a neuro session, because of everything we just described. You've got all areas of sensory information going with the visual cortex, with the vestibular area in the temporal lobe, with the parietal lobe, with all of the movement, with the cerebellum, with the integration of all of it, and then some lymphatic just for kicks, just because it's so important for good lymphatic flow, right? That's an amazing little neuro session right there. And what did that take? It took us like 2 minutes, even with me describing it. So, really powerful way to do all of that. Sorry, Joe, I've just been like skipping over all of your chats here. Yeah. If you go to sleep after exercise, back to the sleep one, oftentimes you're gonna fall asleep because you get that rebound effect after a good workout, right? Where it's like, oh man, I'm exhausted. I feel great. And you can fall asleep, but you'll wake up at some point, maybe in an hour or so, because your sympathetic system is still a little ramped up. You ever notice that? Like, that's kind of the danger. Danger is maybe not a great word, but it's best if you can do it 3 hours, at least 3 hours if it's intense. You really don't run that risk very much if it's lighter exercise. Like that light movement we just did, I mean, that's like super light, right? But even like a yin yoga session or something like that can be usually not too disruptive.
And
Okay.
the other question, honey versus orange juice.
Both great. I don't remember the exact makeup of like your general honey as far as like the makeup of glucose and fructose and all the other great stuff that's in honey, but it's also a great option.
Do you have a
Go ahead, Julie.
do you have a preference for orange juice?
Local.
Okay.
Organic
Yeah.
with pulp.
Yeah, local, organic, and not pasteurized and with pulp. It doesn't have to be like you're chewing your orange juice. You can strain some of it out of there, but a little pulp is probably the best. If you hate it, I don't care. Do it without pulp, right? But yeah, non-pasteurized, highly organic, and local is going to be just better in general. So
Okay,
that's
thanks.
what I would go for. Okay, we got a few more to get through, so let's bust through these. These are the little rocks. This is the long tail stuff. And just realized that I just left this stock photo in here, but now it doesn't really work. Anyway, this is the difference between what we've been talking about and what we're talking about now, okay? The big rocks versus the long tail stuff. This more general big rock stuff is going to get you like 90% of the way there. Okay, so you got to hammer those things first. So otherwise, like these little things, they can be helpful, but they're just going to be, you're still going to be like pushing the boulder up the hill, right? You're going to be fighting against yourself. So take care of the big stuff first, and then we can get more specific. With things like light and sunlight upon waking. Now, this is very powerful. And when you get your wake up time handled, the first thing you should be doing is getting out and getting sunlight into your eyes. The amount of like red light, the oranges, that spectrum early in the morning is really helpful for setting your circadian rhythm and will help you get into that groove and create this habit and get that wake up time fix a lot faster. You also need that blue light to wake up, right? And the sunlight is going to be better than any light. And you do not want to look through a window. You got to get outside for this. You can wear glasses, but you need to be outside for it to work well. Mouth taping is next because mouth breathing is the worst. It's linked to all sorts of wild diseases like heart disease, diabetes, all sorts of other stuff just by breathing through your mouth. It's also makes you a much higher risk for getting cavities and gum disease. Your nose filters the air, right? It filters the air, it warms it, moistens it. It's easier on your lungs, gets the bacteria out of there. Like it's incredibly important to breathe through your nose. Mouth breathing is one of the worst things for your sleep and just health in general. But the quick, easy fix for this is just to tape your mouth shut. I wouldn't use duct tape because that's going to hurt when you take it off.
Side note, mouth taping is not that serious as it looks in that photo.
No, it doesn't have to be. I use just a little tiny strip, like athletic tape, or
I just got the mouth. You can just get nose tape, the nose breathing tape, and some people like I say that because I've talked to mouth breathing with a lot of or mouth taping with a lot of people, and they think it looks like that or they think it's like that, but like you said, it just takes a little bit.
Yeah, doesn't take much. You can actually get like headbands that like are elastic and hold your chin and just hold your mouth shut if you don't like the tape. I haven't tried those specifically, but I see them all the time, and I have a client that says that it works better for him than mouth taping. So either way, keep your mouth shut. If you're waking up with a dry mouth, you need to be taping your mouth shut. It's an easy fix. Airflow. Make sure there's no mold in your environment. Make sure your air is filtered in your house. And use plants. Plants are incredible. I mean, just, nature and stuff. It usually has most things figured out that we're just still trying to figure out. You can get some plants in your bedroom to filter air. That's a great way to help improve your sleep quality. Breathing drills that we've talked about before, straw breathing, long exhale, air hunger. Like if you wake up, those breathing drills can help you get back to sleep. They can also just calm down the system as we're getting ready for sleep. But again, take care of the big rocks first before you just rely completely on breathing drills. And those other drills that we talked about are going to be more impactful for blood flow and helping your quality of sleep. Okay, supplements. Now, I would cross melatonin off this list. I do not recommend taking melatonin, mostly because like the melatonin supplements on the market are like ridiculously wrong in most of their dosages and what's actually in the bottle. And taking melatonin can disrupt your body's natural process of creating melatonin. And it's kind of like a mask for something else that's going on. So it's just not, it's not ideal. I would actually try some of these other ones first. And specifically L-theanine is a nice calming supplement that you can use. It's like, some people call it like our body's natural Xanax, just as how helpful it can be for anxiety. Magnesium can also be helpful for that kind of stuff. And you can get some in your electrolyte mix, but a good magnesium supplement can be helpful. Magnesium glycinate, I know, is the best one. Some say for sleep because it can cross the blood-brain barrier most easily. Apigenin is the compound found in chamomile tea. So that can be very helpful for calming and and getting ready for sleep. CBD also for that endocannabinoid system. 5-HTP can be helpful. GABA is our most prevalent neuro inhibitor. So kind of just turning things down. But again, before you get into this supplement stack and trying stuff like ashwagandha, like you see here, even glycine, which is another amino acid, take care of the big rocks and then try one of these at a time for like a week before you just jump into this whole melatonin, or excuse me, this whole supplement stack, because you don't know if it's what's working and what's not. And the risk with supplements is like you getting too much of one thing, right, is gonna have an effect downstream on other processes in your body. So before you just jump into a big supplement stack like that, just be more methodical about it. But those are the ones that I would recommend if you're getting into that. Bedding, linen sheets or high quality cotton sheets, make it comfy. Comfort is queen, as David G says, who's one of my favorite meditation teachers. Gadgets, you can use things like the Chili Pad or 8 Sleep mattress that actually can change the temperature, right, to cool you down and heat you up in the morning. The Muse headband, like you see in the picture, I've actually used myself. It's pretty powerful. It's what got me into meditation and kept me going with it, because it actually has a biofeedback where it's reading your brainwaves and it gives you neurofeedback via sound, a soundscape that, like, as you calm your mind, the soundscape calms and you hear more birds chirping. As the mind gets wild and crazy, so does the soundscape. So it's a way for you to get real-time neurofeedback to calm your mind and help you get to sleep. I've used it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Red light also can be helpful. Weighted blanket. These are like little gadgets. A sun lamp. You can have bulbs that dim at night and get rid of all the blue light. And then, go super bright in the morning when you're ready to wake up, right? There's all sorts of little gadgets for sleep out there.
Question about red light.
Yeah.
Eating your fuel, like using up the sugar and stuff that you have? Like, is it something that's better to use in the morning after you've been kind of like fasting all night? Is it better to use before you go to bed? What about the fuel stuff that you talked about before, then after
Yeah.
red light? How do you see that?
Either time is great for red light, but you should fuel after you use red light. Red light's gonna be helpful, like for a lot of things, but it does have a cost. Just like the next thing we'll talk about, well, just like temperature is gonna have a cost. Like it's gonna take some fuel, right? So you'll want to refuel after you use it. And I wouldn't use it more than 10 minutes at night. You could maybe use it longer in the morning if you're using it in different areas and things like that. But as a general rule, yeah, 10 minutes, get some fuel afterward. And you should be okay, no matter when you use it. Next is inflammation, right? If you just got chronic inflammation going on, your sleep quality is going to be disrupted, right? Quick ways to get rid of it, turmeric, ashwagandha can help as far as supplements go. Checking your diet for what's causing inflammation and just trying to regulate your stress with all the methods we talked about before. But being aware of that inflammation can be a clue that you need to take care of it. Temperature therapy is last here. Hot shower, sauna, cold exposure. Try to get at least 90 minutes before bed. Head cooling is something else you can do closer to bed. I would actually lie in bed with a ice pack on my head or just a wet washcloth. Literally cooling down the brain, right? To get it more ready for sleep. The other ones that are full body, shower, sauna, cold exposure, 90 minutes before bed. And I would also get some fuel after those, because those are going to take some energy, right? So even if it's just a little bit of a quick shot of OJ or spoonful of honey, good to get some fuel. All right, if you're still struggling after you've done all of those things, the basic golden rule you want to remember is that you minimize your non-sleep time in bed. Do not try to fall asleep for more than 20 minutes at a time, because you're conditioning yourself that being in bed is time for being awake. So if you are in bed, laying there awake for more than 15 minutes, get up, leave the room, go read something that is like fiction or an appropriate stimulus to not get you too amped up. Do something relaxing, like some light movement, cleaning, like some breathing. And then actually, paradoxically, right, trying to stay awake can oftentimes be the best way to fall asleep. Right? But again, the rule here is to minimize your non-sleep time in bed. And then at the bottom here, have some glucose by your bed for if you wake up during the night. Especially if you wake up and you're feeling like heart rate's increasing, like you are clammy in your hands, like you kind of jolt awake. Those are kind of signs that we've run out of fuel. So one of the best things you can do is just get some, that spoonful of honey or some orange juice. And oftentimes you can go right back to sleep. So what we're doing for your growth work is to master those big rocks. Make sure they are all in place, right? Make sure your room is darker. You got an eye mask. Keep it cool. No screens an hour before bed, or please wear some blue light blocking glasses at a minimum for an hour before you go to bed. Set your wake up time, work backwards to get your 9 hours in bed from the same wake up time every day. Try the neuro drills before bed and with your other regular hygiene, if you can put them into that, or if they fit within your regular neuro sessions. And then if you try all those big rocks, you got those all dialed in, try some of the long tail stuff. Maybe one of the supplements, maybe some temperature regulation, maybe one of the gadgets. are definitely mouth taping and light in the morning. Okay, so that's your growth work for this week.